Good afternoon, Oak Grove. Happy Thursday. Welcome to this week's installment of the Midweek Update series here on the church's YouTube channel, where I just pop into your device to say hi in the middle of the week. And that's it, just to say hi. Keeping the church and our faith family on our mind for the remainder of the week that we're not in worship. I am really making a genuine effort to try to make these videos shorter, so I'm going to get right to the point. I don't have anything in particular to talk to you about this week. No particular current events that I want to update you upon right now. Nothing that I think we need to talk about that I might not otherwise talk about in a sermon in the context of Sunday morning. So whenever I don't otherwise have anything to talk to you about, I like to read to you from the Daily Lectionary. There are Bible readings appointed for every day of the year in our lectionary, not just Sundays. One of those readings for this week is from the book of Job, chapter 38, verses 1 through 11. The Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind. Who is this that darkens counsel by words without knowledge? Gird up your loins like a man. I will question you, and you shall answer me. Where were you when I laid the foundation of the earth? Tell me if you have understanding. Who determined its measurements? Surely you know. Or who stretched the line upon it? On what were its bases sunk, or who laid its cornerstone, when the morning stars sang together and all the heavenly beings shouted for joy? Or who shut in the sea with doors when it burst out from the womb, when I made the clouds its garment and thick darkness its swaddling band, and prescribed bounds for it, and set bars and doors, and I said, thus far shall you come and no farther, and here shall your proud waves be stopped. So, to refresh your memory, the book of Job, of course, starts with God and the devil sitting there having a friendly chat one day. And the devil tells God, I'm willing to bet I can get your servant Job to curse you if I take away everything that he has. Now, it's worth questioning whether or not this historically even happened or not. Or maybe this story is meant to be read more as myth than fact. Was there an actual Job? Who knows? This book is very, very old, and its authorship is not certain. But what's important is not whether it happened. What's important is what it teaches us. So God allows the devil, however questionable that might seem to us, to take away everything from Job. Job, of course, is heartbroken. He was a wealthy man. He had a big family and lots of property. And then for most of the book, Job's friends are trying to convince Job that he must have done something wrong. He must have committed some sin, which he's being punished for right now. And Job denies this, but he is willing to cry out to God in frustration and complain about his circumstances. Well, this passage that we just heard from is God's response. This is the first time in the book that God addresses Job. And it may initially sound like a very harsh response. It may sound like God is saying to Job, in essence, shut up. If you weren't there when I made the universe and you can't answer me how it was made and where it came from, you have no right to push back on me or question my will for your life. You need to just submit to whatever suffering and hardship is happening to you, and you can't say a word about it. Well, that is one way to read this, but that is an awfully harsh response by God, to me anyway. I have difficulty believing that the Father of Jesus intended for it to sound quite like that. I think maybe there's a different way to look at it, where look at the beauty of creation that is described in all of the grandeur and wonder of everything that God did. Maybe God is challenging Job to look beyond the events of his life and look to the larger picture of the universe. Maybe God is challenging Job to find abundant life in whatever it is that he has left, being grateful for what he had before, and acknowledging that it is all God's at all times, and none of what we have is promised to us for eternity, and it can all disappear in a moment. And that's the bigger picture. That's the broader perspective. And maybe what God is trying to do by appealing here in this reading to the grandeur of all that God did in creation and all that there is in the universe, maybe God is trying to get Job to look at his place in the bigger picture. And that maybe if he redirects his view to the bigger picture, he'll be able to redirect his view away from his grief and away from his suffering and be able to find a way forward towards abundant life again. Now, we know how the book ends. We know, of course, that Job regains everything that he lost and he lives happily ever after. But at this point in the story, he doesn't know that's going to happen yet. Nor is it the case that God ever tells Job what happened in the first place, that all of this was taken away as a result of a bet between God and the devil. Again, if it was literally true that that happened, that would be problematic for a lot of us. But it's not so much whether it happened, it's what is it trying to teach us. And so maybe here in God's initial response to Job that might seem very harsh, where were you when I created all of this? Maybe what God is really trying to do is to get us to see our place in the larger creation, get us to see the beauty and wonder of all things around us, understand that everything we have is not to be taken for granted and we can lose it in a moment. And maybe those are the lessons that God is challenging Job to consider in this reply. And it's not just a matter of sit down, shut up, obey, and submit. You have no right to complain because you're my property and I can do whatever I want to you. Even if there's a certain degree in which that might be true, I have trouble believing that Jesus, Father, would ever address us that way. And so I think this is a more life-giving way to look upon it. Just something to think about for today. In the vein of trying to keep these shorter, I am going to shut up right now. I will see you all in worship on Sunday morning, Oak Grove. Take care. God bless. Enjoy the beautiful weather and have a wonderful rest of your week.